Hi, welcome to Inge's Knitting Lab Along in this series on how to make the Lacy Cable Tee. In this episode we will talk about the yarn and possible alternatives to the choices that I've made. So I will walk through the different yarn types and talk about different brands and different compositions, and I will try to do my very best to predict what would happen to your gauge if and when you do these changes in the yarn compared to the one that I've used in the design. So let's get to it. As always, let's start with the overview. So this design, the Lacy Cable Tee, goes in two editions. One which I call the Mohair Edition, and the other one I call the Plant Fiber Edition. And let me talk about one by one. This is what I call the Mohair Edition, and I use in total 3 different yarn types. So the base yarn is this cotton bamboo blend, is half fingering weight, and I pair it with a silk mohair. It's a lace weight yarn, so the combination will be DK weight. And for the I-cord band here, I add a sequin strand to spice up the feminine look at these I-cord edges. And in this case, I have used Go Handmade Party Deluxe. But again, there are many brands, and we'll look at it later. And when I use this combination, it is the funny thing that this yarn, this will tend to, when washed and blocked, to be rather elastic and but shorten the yarn. However, this one will counteract this shortening of the fabric and elongate the fabric, so that when you have this before and after, it will be approximately the same length. However, due to the ribbing of the pattern, it will become wider once blocked. So this is what happens with this type of yarn. The other edition I call the Plant Fiber Edition because I add no other fiber than plant fiber in this one. And let's see, I have used this Waterford from Sweden, Cecilia, and other similar brands for the design. What important is the composition. So you see here that this is almost half cotton, then viscose and linen. And viscose could be another word for bamboo. So you will see here it is almost half cotton bamboo, but added 14% linen. Let's look at the overview before we dig into all the different yarns and alternatives. So just like the Mohair Edition, when you wash and block it, due to the pattern, it will widen up. However, compared to the initial one not being washed and blocked, the final product will shorten. So not just due to the widening of the yarn or the widening of the pattern, but due to the yarn composition. And if you use a yarn here with or without the linen, you will find differences in your yarn gauge. But we will get to it when we walk over the yarn types in this edition. So let's move back to this one, the Mohair Edition, and let's start with this kid silk, because this may cause some trouble. Some are allergic to mohair or some find it very prickly. So let's have a look at this one. I have brought a buffet of different mohair brands here, but also other alternatives to the silk mohair for us to review. So let's look at the different factors of importance when doing the yarn alternatives, and also looking at different brands. I will just remove this basket first. Here you see 4 different brands of silk mohair, which are readily available here in Denmark or Scandinavia. So this is Drops Kid Silk, Isager Silk Mohair, Mayflower Super Kid Silk, and Viking Yarn Kid Silk. And when you look at them, just seen from when you just touch the yarn ball here, they seem alike. And if you go for this halo look and this fluffiness on your work, they will all do the trick for you. So what are the differences? When we look at the composition, they are all about 3/4 of mohair and 1/4 of silk. So that's not the difference. So if we want to see the actual difference, I think we have to go into a microscope and also look at the manufacturing methods with the core yarn and the mohair fluff around it. But that's not the purpose of this episode. You will have to go to my nerdy one, Inge's Knitting Lab. So here we will just settle with the result being, which one of these would you feel the least prickly? If you are allergic, they are of course a no-go, either one of them. But if you are sensitive, one may be better than the other. So as I have only a limited experience with these ones and not all the other brands in the world, I have asked my viewers, and I will now give you their point of view. So they seem to agree that Isager is by far the most soft one and the least prickly one, and in the other end, Drops Kid Silk is the most prickly one. And in between you have those. So, and I have worked a lot with those, both from Mayflower and Viking, and I find them equally nice also with this one. And I also think that these 3 are in approximately the same price range. However, you may find that sometimes these are on sale, which Isager seldomly is on sale. And this is much more affordable. So other brands besides Isager being very soft is mentioned Lang Yarns, and in the other end being prickly is Sandnes Tin Silk Mohair. So this is what I learned so far about this. So when you now want or would like an alternative to the silk mohair because you want to avoid the mohair, then we will look at the factors of importance. So I will just remove these ones and find some alternatives. I have brought 4 different alternatives here to the silk mohair. And what would be of importance when looking for another yarn here? Yeah, well, one thing is if you want to preserve this halo look of the end product, this fluffiness, this is a factor. And of course, it's a factor that you find a yarn, a lace weight yarn, so that we will get the same gauge. However, it's not just the yarn weight of the yarn that will help you get my gauge. It is also the fiber type. So you would like one fiber type which will elongate a bit, which will counteract the shortening of this one. And which type does that? This would be the alpacas. So I think an alpaca silk will be a perfect substitution for the silk mohair. So let's have a look at these ones. This first one is a very luxurious one from Fro. It's a Danish brand, and it's baby alpaca, silk and cashmere as well. And if you look at this one, you will see that it also has this very soft but also halo look to it. Another one here is from Magiske Garner. It's also a Danish brand. It's Silk Yak. So it's superwash merino, silk and yak. And superwash merino will also elongate. So this will also do the trick. And we will still have the silk shine to it. And if you look at this one, It's not as much as this one, but it also has this kind of halo look to it. If you go for more commercial-like yarns, I think there are many brands all over the world which will be the same as these ones. But if you want to go for commercial yarns, there is this Sandnes yarn alpaca silk, and this is also very soft and has this halo to it. Another yarn is from Holst. It's Titica. It has no silk in it, but it is pure alpaca. It is also very soft, and you can see the halo here. I have worked with this yarn, and it also, when combined with other yarns, will elongate a bit if you combine it with a yarn that shortens a bit. So I think all of these would do the trick, and a zillion of other yarns all over the world. So look for a lace weight yarn, look for a yarn that doesn't shorten during blocking, and if you want to preserve the halo look, then go for that one. If you would like to use another yarn than this one, Bambino, you will find very many brands and bases in a combination of half cotton, half bamboo. Look for the words viscose and so on. It can be named many things, this bamboo. And some of the testers use shepias. I don't know if that is the right word, but you or the right pronunciations. You can find so many, and they will all do half, and they will help you with the properties of shortening the fabric a bit. So if you would like to take another fiber, a protein fiber instead of a plant fiber yarn, then again go for a fingering weight yarn. So a needle size of 3 millimeter, that is 2.5 US, would go. And again, when you want to change this one, you have to look for a yarn fiber which per definition and your experience will shorten a bit when it is knitted up, because again, along with the kid silk, they will counteract each other, being approximately the same length before and after blocking. And I have two alternatives here, Viking yarn, Trend Merino. So again, it's important to say superwash merino will not do the trick, because this will also elongate, and along with this one, even though they look nice, it will not give you the same gauge as mine. So another one is from Sandnes yarn, Tin Peer Gynt. So if you want a woolen product with your silk, these could be alternatives. I haven't tried it, so I would love to see all your different examples on what to do with this sweater or tee. This will give you a slightly different or a different look, I guess, because the plant fiber yarn along with the merino gives you a kind of lightness to it. So this was alternatives to the Mohair Edition. Let's move on to the plant fiber edition. You see here 3 different brands with exactly the same fiber content at this Swatches. They are all Scandinavian brands, and if I should mention the price range, these would be approximately the same price range, and this you often will find on sale. Sometimes also the other ones. Do you see a difference when you knit up with those, or can you totally exchange one for the other? Let's have a look at some samples. These are washed and block samples of Swatches and Drop Spell, and as you can see, they seem fully interchangeable, getting the same gauge. I tried earlier on to make gauge swatches without the Lacy Cable stripe, just with the tree trunk stripe, and again these were fully interchangeable, but when I used the Sandnes yarn, it seemed as if it has a wider gauge. But it may be minor differences in my way of blocking, I don't know. I think the important thing here is you make your own gauge watch and get gauge, and this would do the trick. But if you dig into the details and the manufacturing methods and the fiber resource they have, it may have different elasticity. Also, the color can do a difference, the color process. But that is, I guess, digging very deep, and we don't need it. It's just my curiosity and interest in all these things. So I would not be afraid to use either one of those, make my gauge watch, and adjust with needle size as appropriate. So if you would go for a yarn without a linen content, what would then happen? Let's have a look at some alternatives, possible alternatives or not, to this plant fiber yarn used in this pattern. And there are many types of plant fiber yarns, but let's have a look at some of them and have a talk about what happens. So I thought about, what about leaving out the linen content and settle with half cotton, half bamboo. There are many brands, Fibra Natura, Shepias, this brand here, and Viking. It's just the same, just in another yarn weight, fingering, and this is worsted weight. So you would think, well, this is a worsted weight yarn and specified as a 4mm needle, giving you the 22 stitches, so it would be approximately fine. But let's have a look at some samples, what happens when you leave out the linen. We have these ones with a linen content, and here I have one with only cotton bamboo, not linen. And as you can see, these blocked swatches are very different. So this would be a different pattern, but you can see here that it preserves its elasticity very much compared to a yarn combo with the linen content, which is why you cannot change these ones one-to-one to this one with the linen. So what about 100% cotton then? Yeah, when you compare cotton alone with the cotton bamboo, the cotton bamboo is more elastic. So if you were to use a cotton alone, maybe you could get the same gauge here, or it would be a shorter. Actually, one of my testers used the cotton alone and tried knitting up in this plant fiber yarn pattern, but it didn't work for her. So actually we tried switching patterns, and I said, well, try the mohair pattern instead, and this worked for her. So it is a matter of gauge, but definitely also the properties of the yarn when you look at the final product. But what then if you take cotton linen? Here Viking yarn has a new base here with half cotton, half linen, and I must say I haven't tried it yet, but I sure will. I don't know what happens, but I would perhaps predict that you would get some kind of the same result, and when making the gauge swatch I can adjust with the needle sizes and still use this plant fiber yarn pattern. If you would like to substitute your yarn with some kind of plant fiber yarn with a synthetic fiber, polyester or something, let's see what happens. I haven't tried it out, so I don't know it for a fact, but I know one factor which will be of importance, and that's the weight of the yarn. Because when you look at this one, it states 4mm needle, US 6, perfect, 21 stitches, perfect. However, when you look at the weight, 50 grams here will be 105 meters, 115 yards. And this is definitely not the same as mine, because there are more length to the gram here. And this means when you knit up this one, for one, you need more bullet skeins, but also your garment will be heavier. And I always try to get as light a garment as I can, so that it is not just the smaller sizes which will feel that this is a nice garment, because, yeah, well, the weight of the garment is of importance, of course, when you wear it. So I think a safe choice would be with this pattern to stick to something with a linen content. Otherwise, you definitely need to change needle sizes. And I actually tried to do it in this one to see if I could get gauge with a larger size needles. So let me find the swatch and you will see what happens. As you can see, going up half a needle size worked for me. This is unblocked, so I guess when blocked I would get gauge. But to me, this will be too loose of an impression, or yeah, too loose, and certainly the row count will be far off, you can see. And row count when doing the yoke is very, very important. So this wouldn't work. If you want a cotton bamboo blend, you need a different stitch count. That's my conclusion. And maybe I will make one pattern, because when I knitted up this one, whoa, I tell you, it is so flexible, nice and soft, and it feels so lovely to the skin. So I would really like to make a design using such an elastic cotton bamboo. And you feel this compared to this one, it is a bit different, but I've also made garments in this one, and yeah, nice, top nice. Yeah, now let's move on to the feminine spice. Let's have a look at the final yarn strand here used in the project, common for both the mohair and the linen edition, and this is the sequin strands added for the feminine touch of the I-cord. So I have divided them into kind of two groups due to the weight of the yarn, and these are the brands available in my area. I guess there are much more around the world. But let's look at this one. This is Go Handmade Party Deluxe, and as you can see, this is a relatively thick thread here with silver sequins. It's the same thing with this Dale bling here, colored strand with silver sequins. These over here may be colored sequins as well, and the difference is the weight, because when we look at those two here, these are 50 grams and 250 meter. This is 50 grams, 350 meters, so a bit lighter. But when you look at this brand here, Lamy Paillettes, you will see that 25 grams is 325 meters. So if you should compare those two, this would be 650 meters per 50 grams. So you can see this is much lighter. And it's the same thing for these with variations. So if you would ask me if I prefer the heavier for the lighter one, yeah, well, I've used both and I like them both. It's not like one is better than the other, or it drags you down with the heavy one, not at all, because you use so very little in the whole project. Let's have a look here, because I used this one in a size XL, as you can see, and I use 6.3 grams, and this is the full one. So you don't use very much of it. So you have for more projects in one. And yeah, well, I like them all, I would say. If I should talk about differences when using them during the knitting, I would say this is easier to knit with because you have the cone and it, you know, stays on the cone and you just unwrap it, so to speak. Whereas this one, you definitely need these rubber bands around here, because once you release the label, it is fairly alive, I would say, and easily goes off this paper cone here inside. So yeah, but I cannot choose. You see, this is with many different colors. It's lovely, 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 and you can have so many colors matching your project. So let's just have a look at some of the ones I've used. So for this beige project here, I actually used this crazy paillettes with the many different colors. And I think even though you add this feminine touch, it's very subtle. It's not like you feel like there's the bling tea going with you. It's more like a subtle glitter. And this one I used for this project, and as you can see, this strand is also colored and goes in line with the project color here, so that you see the small silvery, and they have a higher density, or they come more frequent than these do, which you will see in this one where I used this Party Go looks. You can see there's a longer distance between the sequins, so that would also be a difference, I would say. And also it makes a difference, of course, if you make the base of this sequence color match your project or slightly off. So this is called caramel color, so it will stand a bit out from this brown one. And here in this project I used the light Lamy Paillette version here. So yeah, and again, it's not always easy to see the matching. When I looked at this together with the yarn, I thought, well, this is definitely too bright, but when I knitted it up, as you can see here, it blends in quite nicely with this blue version here. So what about the prices then? Yeah, well, they have about the same price range. I would say this is in the cheaper end, especially when you get it on sale. And by far the most expensive one is the Lang paillettes. So yeah, I think I wouldn't think about so much the brand. I would rather go and look for the color that matches my project, and then go with ever the brand you like. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, now we are back to where we started with the Mohair Edition and the Linen Edition. And I hope by this episode you got some inspiration on choosing your yarn for the project, and you found it helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe and help me grow this channel for further episodes with Knit Along on this tee. And let's meet up in the next episode doing the swatch, and even the next one again, to see the result and what we can do to get gauge. Roger and over from Inge's Knitting Lab Along here. Color me happy. Bye bye.